I'm going to show you how I start my hats. I'm just using a worsted weight. This is Shocking Pink by Red Heart, and I have an eye hook. I'm going to start with a magic loop or an adjustable ring. I actually don't know if there's really any difference between the two, but this is how I start my hats. I'm holding on to the tail end. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding the yarn in my right hand and I'm going to wrap it around my pinky. Then I'm going to come up over my top finger, and then it's like my two middle fingers are connected, and I'm going to wrap around them twice. Now if you notice, my yarn is really pretty loose because I want it to be able to slide. My thumb is going to hold it in place on my pinky. Let me show you one more time. I'm going to wrap it around my pinky once, up over my top finger, around both middle fingers twice. I'm going to lay it on my pinky and hold it in place with my thumb. I'm going to take my hook. I'm going to go underneath both strands, and I'm going to grab the yarn that's back here behind, that's in between the two fingers. I'm going to grab that, pull it underneath, and then come through. And then this is like as if I was starting to chain and I attached the yarn to my hook. So now I'm going to chain 6. That's what my pattern calls for. And so I'm going to do a magic loop of 6. So I'm going to go underneath both, grab the yarn, and pull it through. So there's one. I've got this all funny so that you can see it. It's really not this awkward after you get going. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. My yarn all wants to get stuck and all come at me at once. Then there's 4, 5, and 6. Now I can pull that off my fingers, and I've got these strands. I'm going to count, make sure that I've got the right amount of stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then grab onto the yarn tail, and I'm going to slightly pull it. I'm not going to yank it closed really fast. I just want to pull it enough to see which one of the strands is going to pull, and it's this one. So I'm going to grab onto that, and I'm going to pull it closed. And this might all look like, reminds me of Cat's Cradle, the little string games that I'd played when I was little. And it might seem like that at first, but after you get the hang of it, or whatever works best for you, I think you're going to love it. So now I've got this gigantic loop, and I've got my yarn tail. I'm just going to grab back onto my yarn tail and pull it closed. And it gives me just a nice closed ring. You can pull it even tighter if you want. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I've got my 6 stitches. So then at this part, you can do 2 different things. You can either slip stitch into that first chain. So I'm going to slip stitch and then chain 1 and then start single crochet from there. I like to do a continuous stitch as I go and not start and stop each row. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I'm starting and stopping each row, I'm going to get what looks like a seam that goes down the side of my hat. And this will be more continuous. If I'm doing stripes or something, then I need to start and stop each time. Or if I'm only going to do a couple of rows and then change to a different kind of yarn, like a bulky, or drop one of my strands or something, then I will start and stop. But I'm just going to do a pink hat. So the first round, I'm not going to put a stitch marker in. There's only a few stitches. I'm just going to count as I go. Make sure I've got the right amount of stitches. I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. So this is my first stitch. I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then right back in the same spot, 2 single crochets. And I'm going to count to 12 because I'm doing 2 in each of the 6 stitches. So I did 1, 2, now I'm doing 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, and then in my last one, 11 and 12. I'm going to count, make sure I have 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I do. So I've done my first round. So now what I'm going to do is I want to remember where that row ended, that round. And so I can either put a stitch marker, because I'm just going to keep going around. I'm not going to start and stop each row. But what I like to do is I have this big long tail from where I started. I'm just going to take and lay it before I start the next round. So this time I'm doing an increased row, and I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch. Then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch in the next one. Now I kind of count as I go along so that I can help me remember where I'm going. And I used to do 1 single crochet, then 1, 2 in the next one, then 1 single crochet, and then 1, 2 in the next one. But what would happen is I would do my 1 single crochet, then I would do a 1, and then somebody would ask me a question, and I'd have to go back and figure out, like it takes a lot of time, but I would have to go, okay, am I doing an increase stitch, or am I supposed to just be doing 1? So just because it's what I do, it's just a habit that I have gotten into, and it's easier for me. I count 1, then I do 2, 3. That way I know that when I say 1, that means I'm doing 1 single crochet, and then I'm doing 2, 3 in the next stitch. So I do 1 single crochet, then I do 2, 3 in the next stitch. 1, 2, and 3 is right in the exact same spot. 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to continue around. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm back to my yarn tail or your stitch marker, whatever you're using. You can either pull it out and put it over so that you're starting a new round, or you can leave it in for a couple of rounds, whichever is easiest for you. This way you know for sure that you're at the next round. So now I'm doing another increase round. This time I'm going to do 2 single crochets, so 1 in the next one, and then 1 in the one after that. Then I'm going to do an increase stitch, so 2 single crochets are going to go into that one. So just as I did before, 1 single crochet, and 2, and then 3, 4 are in the same stitch. So 1, stitch number 2 is all by itself, and then 3, 4 are like little friends in the same spot. So one person goes walking, takes a second step, and then 3, 4 together. Okay, now just like on cooking shows, we have the magic of television, and voila. To save time, I already did several increase rounds, and we're going to pretend like I'm doing this little itty bitty tiny hat, and then I'm ready to go. I've done all my increase rounds, and the next step is to start doing half double crochet in each stitch. On my patterns, I do that quite a bit. You'll notice that I do my increases are single crochets, and then I'll switch to half double crochets. It's just a matter of preference. I like the look of half double crochet stitches better. So I do my increases, and then as soon as possible I switch to the half double crochet. It's also faster than doing a whole bunch of little single crochets. I think the hat tends to be softer how I crochet. I've seen some beautiful hats out of all single crochet, and it's just what I like. Also, I do a lot of hats when I was selling pre-made hats. It was really popular to do the flower with a button on the back, and then they could slide the button through the spot. Well, on single crochet there's no spot to slide through, but in half double crochet or double crochet they could slide the button through. So if I'm going to do that, a lot of people will slip stitch and then chain 2 and start the half double crochet, and that's great. But I'm spiraling. I'm just going continually around all the way to the end of my hat. So if I start this way as I come around, now I've got this big ladder that I've got to catch up to. But if I just go from my single crochet and I just put a half double crochet in the next stitch, I really don't have that big of a spot that I have to come, as I come around, it's just gonna jump right up there, and you'll have a little bit of a spot, but not nearly as much as if you did the ladder first. So when I have double crochet, I just loop over, insert. Now I've got 3 loops, and I'm gonna pull it through all 3 of them. And I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna do a half double crochet in each one. And that's how I start my hat.